darling, you know I'll always stand by you." Those were the words he spoke so casually, with a warm smile that I once believed could calm any storm. I trusted my husband with my entire heart, believing that our love was a fortress against the world's hardships. But on that fateful evening, an evening that began like any other, everything shattered in front of my eyes. I was at a family dinner, surrounded by loved ones, when he casually announced our divorce. Everyone knew but me. I still remember the days when our home was filled with laughter, when every corner echoed with the sound of our shared dreams. My name is Rebecca, and for over 20 years, I believed I had found my soulmate in Michael. He was the picture of charm and tenderness, always ready with a compliment, always reassuring me with words like, "Darling, you know I'll always stand by you." I clung to those words as a lifeline, certain that our love was unbreakable. In the early years of our marriage, Michael was my rock. He would surprise me with flowers on ordinary Tuesdays, leave handwritten notes on the kitchen table, and plan intimate dinners that made me feel like the only woman in the world. Our wedding photos, framed and proudly displayed, were constant reminders of the promises we had made. I built my entire identity around the belief that our union was the epitome of devotion and trust. But as the years passed, subtle changes began to creep in. There were moments when Michael's gaze would drift off as if lost in thought, moments when his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. I brushed these off as the inevitable wear of a long marriage, never imagining that beneath the veneer of our happy life lay secrets too dark to fathom. I continued to live in a blissful ignorance, cherishing our memories and dreaming of a future as radiant as the love I once believed was eternal. I never suspected that the man I adored could be capable of so much deception. It started slowly. I began to notice little things that didn't add up, a forgotten anniversary here, a vague excuse there. Michael would come home later than usual, his eyes guarded, his tone clipped. I tried to rationalize these changes, attributing them to the stress of work or the challenges of raising our children. Yet, an undercurrent of unease began to pulse beneath my calm facade. I remember one chilly autumn evening when we hosted a family dinner at our home. The table was set with our best china, and the room was filled with the soft murmur of conversation, punctuated by the clinking of silverware. My heart swelled with pride as I looked around at our family gathered together, a tapestry of smiles and warmth. Michael sat at the head of the table, his eyes occasionally meeting mine with a glimmer that I once interpreted as love. During that dinner, I noticed something peculiar. Michael's laughter, though genuine in tone, seemed rehearsed. His eyes flickered briefly toward the door as if expecting someone. I dismissed it as an odd coincidence, perhaps a stray thought interrupting his smile. But as the evening progressed, the sense of foreboding grew stronger, like an inexplicable chill that settled in my bones. I tried to shake the feeling off, focusing instead on the joyous moments shared by our family. Yet, in the back of my mind, a silent question began to form: what was Michael hiding? It was a night that I will never forget, a night when the fragile illusion of our perfect life was brutally torn apart. The dinner was in full swing. The aroma of roast, the laughter of my children, and the gentle hum of conversation painted a picture of domestic bliss. I remember the way the candlelight flickered on the faces of our loved ones, each smile a testament to years of shared joy. I was lost in the warmth of the moment, completely unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon. Then, as we reached the main course, Michael cleared his throat. His voice, usually so soothing, now held a strange edge, almost cold and detached. The room fell silent for a heartbeat as he looked around, his gaze pausing on each family member with a calculated precision. And then, without any preamble, he said, "I have an announcement to make." A murmur rippled through the room. My heart pounded in my chest as every eye turned to him. I could feel the weight of anticipation, of something monumental about to unfold. With a casualness that sent shivers down my spine, Michael continued, "After careful consideration, I'd decided that I want a divorce. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I sat frozen, the knife of betrayal twisting in my gut as I tried to comprehend what I had just heard. My family, my dear parents, my siblings, even my in-laws, shared looks of stunned disbelief. Whispers spread quickly, a mix of shock and sorrow reverberating around the room. And yet, in that moment, I was alone in my devastation, isolated by the very announcement that everyone else had somehow anticipated. I wanted to cry out, to demand an explanation, but my throat felt paralyzed. How could Michael, the man I trusted with every piece of my heart, decide unilaterally that our marriage was over? How could he announce something so life-altering in the midst of a family dinner, where every eye was on him, and every word was laden with the unspoken truth that I was the last to know? In the chaotic aftermath of that announcement, I felt as if the ground had been ripped from beneath me. My world, which had once been so secure, now spun wildly out of control. The room, filled with murmurs of shock and sympathetic glances, became a blur of voices and tears that I could barely comprehend. My mind raced, struggling to process the enormity of Michael's betrayal. I remember retreating to the quiet sanctuary of our bedroom, the walls echoing with the remnants of the shattered family dinner. I sat on the edge of our bed, clutching a pillow as though it could absorb the pain, my eyes brimming with unshed tears. The realization that the man I had devoted my life to could so callously dismantle our shared future was too much to bear. I felt small, insignificant, a broken shell left to pick up the pieces of a life that had crumbled without warning. Days turned into weeks as I navigated the tumultuous waters of grief and disbelief. Michael's decision had been made public, and yet, the finality of it was hard to accept. I became a ghost in my own life, moving through days and a days, unable to escape the crushing weight of his words. Friends and family offered their condolences, their voices soft and filled with pity, but their words felt hollow in the face of my overwhelming loss. I spent countless nights questioning every moment of our marriage. Had I missed the signs? Was there something I could have done to prevent this? The answers eluded me, leaving behind a chasm of self-doubt and despair. Each memory of our happier times was tainted by the knowledge that Michael's love had been a lie, a facade built on deception and indifference. In the weeks that followed the divorce announcement, I withdrew from the world. I stopped attending family gatherings and social events, choosing instead to isolate myself in the quiet of our once shared home. The silence was both a comfort and a curse. In its stillness, I was forced to confront the reality of my shattered heart. I began to see our home as a mausoleum of memories, a place where every room echoed with the laughter we once shared, now replaced by the cold, unyielding echo of betrayal. The dinner table, once a symbol of our unity, now stood as a stark reminder of that fateful night. I could no longer sit there without feeling the sting of Michael's words, the betrayal that had been so publicly declared. Each day, I would wander through the empty halls, running my fingers along the walls as if seeking solace in their familiarity. I found myself writing endlessly in a journal, each word a desperate attempt to make sense of the chaos within me. I wrote about the sting of Michael's announcement, the shock that had frozen me in time, and the slow, agonizing process of trying to reclaim my identity from the ruins of our marriage. There were nights when I would lie awake, tears streaming down my face, haunted by the memory of his cold, detached tone. I questioned whether I had been blind, whether the signs had been there all along and I had chosen to ignore them. In my isolation, I began to blame myself, wondering if my trust had been misplaced because of my own naivety. Amid the overwhelming darkness, however, a spark of defiance began to flicker within me. I refused to let Michael's callous announcement define my entire existence. Though every fiber of my being ached from the betrayal, I slowly began to realize that I had the power to rebuild my life from the ashes of our broken marriage. I started by reaching out to a trusted friend, someone who had always been a pillar of strength in my life. Over long, heartfelt conversations that stretched late into the night, I began to piece together the fragments of my shattered self. My friend's words were gentle, yet resolute. "Rebecca, you are stronger than you know. This is not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter in your life." Encouraged by that support, I took tentative steps toward reclaiming my identity. I enrolled in a creative writing course, a place where I could channel my pain into words. Each sentence I wrote was a small act of rebellion against the despair that had once threatened to engulf me. My journal became a sacred space where I poured out every emotion: anger, sorrow, determination, and the fragile hope that perhaps I could find happiness again. I began to attend support groups for those who had experienced similar betrayals. In those meetings, I found solace in the shared experiences of strangers who, like me, had been left reeling by the shock of a loved one's deceit. Their stories, though laced with pain, were also filled with the promise of renewal. In the empathy of others, I discovered that I was not alone, and that together, we could find the strength to rise again. Slowly, the isolation that had once defined my days began to recede, replaced by a cautious optimism. I started to venture out again, taking walks in the park, visiting local cafes, and even exploring new hobbies that sparked a long-forgotten joy within me. Each small step was a victory, a reminder that life could still be beautiful even after the deepest wounds. As I grew stronger, the urge to understand why Michael had chosen such a cruel method of ending our marriage became an obsession. I began to reflect on the years we had shared, re-examining every moment, every whispered promise, and every smile that now felt like a masquerade. I interviewed old friends, reread our love letters, and even revisited the very places that had once been our haven. With each recollection, the pieces of the puzzle slowly began to form a picture that was as complex as it was heartbreaking. I discovered that Michael had been harboring secrets long before the fateful dinner. There were hints of a double life, subtle discrepancies in his stories, and moments when he had been inexplicably distant. I confronted him indirectly, asking questions in a tone that masked my inner turmoil, trying to piece together the truth behind the facade. Yet, he remained as inscrutable as ever, a man who deflected and deflected, leaving me with more questions than answers. The confrontation that eventually came was not a dramatic showdown, but rather a quiet, painful conversation in the dim light of our old living room, a space that now felt more like a relic of a past that no longer belonged to me. Michael's eyes, once so full of promise, now betrayed a weariness that spoke of regrets and unspoken truths. "Rebecca," he murmured, "sometimes, love isn't enough to hold two people together. We've grown apart, and I thought it was better to let go than to force something that isn't there anymore." But his words, delivered with such icy detachment, only deepened my wounds. I could not reconcile the man who had once vowed to love me forever with the person who had casually announced our divorce in front of our family. The bitter taste of his words lingered long after our conversation ended, a constant reminder that trust, once shattered, is nearly impossible to restore. Chapter 8: The Journey to Self-Discovery. In the wake of Michael's final words, I embarked on a journey of self-discovery, a quest to reclaim not only my identity but also my capacity for trust, love, and joy. I sought solace in art and literature, turning to books and poetry that spoke of resilience and the beauty of the human spirit. I traveled to quiet, serene places, small towns, coastal retreats, and mountain hideaways, places where I could reflect on my life away from the echoes of my past. During one such retreat, I found myself sitting by a tranquil lake, the water perfectly still, reflecting the clear blue sky. In that moment, I felt a deep sense of peace, a rare, fleeting calm that whispered of new beginnings. I scribbled down my thoughts in a battered notebook, writing about the journey from despair to hope, from betrayal to empowerment. I realized that every scar, every tear, had transformed me into a woman of incredible strength and wisdom. I was no longer the naive, trusting wife who had once believed in unconditional love, I was a survivor, a warrior whose battles had forged an unbreakable spirit. As I returned to everyday life, I continued to nurture my passions. I enrolled in workshops that taught creative expression and personal empowerment. I volunteered at local shelters and joined community groups where I could share my experiences and learn from others. With each new experience, I rediscovered a part of myself that had long been buried under the weight of heartbreak. I learned to embrace vulnerability as a source of strength, understanding that every tear shed was a stepping stone toward healing. I also began therapy with a compassionate counselor named Elena, who helped me unravel the complex tapestry of emotions woven by years of betrayal. Through long, intense sessions, I began to confront the raw pain of my past, allowing myself to grieve not only the loss of our marriage but also the loss of the dreams and illusions I had once cherished. Elena taught me that healing was a process, a slow, painstaking journey of rebuilding trust in myself and learning to trust again. With her guidance, I learned to forgive, not for Michael's sake, but for my own peace of mind. As the seasons changed and time gently mended the wounds of my past, I began to envision a future that was entirely my own. The dark days of despair gradually gave way to moments of light and joy. I discovered a passion for writing, and soon, I was channeling my experiences into articles and essays that resonated with readers who had suffered similar betrayals. Each word I wrote was a triumph, a declaration that I was more than the pain that had once defined me. I started to rebuild relationships with those who had always believed in me, friends, family, even acquaintances who had reached out with words of encouragement when I had been too broken to respond. Their support helped me see that while my marriage had ended in betrayal, it did not mark the end of my ability to love, to trust, or to find happiness again. I embraced new experiences with an open heart. I took up painting, finding solace in the vibrant colors and expressive strokes that allowed me to capture the tumult of my emotions on canvas. I joined a local hiking club, where the beauty of nature and the camaraderie of strangers rekindled a sense of adventure within me. Each step I took on those rugged trails felt like a step away from the shadows of my past, towards a future where I could finally be free. The memoir I had begun writing transformed into a powerful chronicle of my journey, a tapestry of pain, hope, and ultimately, renewal. I poured my soul into every page, recounting the long, arduous path from the moment Michael announced our divorce in that fateful dinner, to the slow and painful process of rediscovering who I was. With each chapter, I reclaimed my narrative, transforming my heartbreak into a beacon of resilience and strength. I learned that true healing was not about erasing the past, but about integrating it into who I had become, a mosaic of experiences that made me uniquely strong. I embraced my scars as symbols of survival, each one a reminder that I had fought through the darkness and emerged on the other side, forever changed but unbroken. Today, as I stand on the threshold of a new chapter in my life, I look back on that painful dinner, a moment that shattered my world, and see it as the catalyst for a transformation I never imagined possible. Michael's callous announcement, made in the middle of a family dinner where everyone but me seemed to know what was coming, was the final blow that forced me to confront the truth about our marriage. And though the pain of that betrayal still lingers, it has given rise to a strength and clarity that now define me. I have learned that life's greatest adversities can lead to the most profound transformations. In the wake of Michael's cruelty, I discovered a resilience that I never knew I possessed, a quiet determination to rebuild my life, piece by piece, on my own terms. I have reclaimed my voice, my identity, and my capacity to love. I now celebrate every sunrise as a new beginning, every shared laugh as a victory over the darkness of the past. I am no longer defined by the wounds inflicted by Michael's deceit. Instead, I choose to see those scars as emblems of my journey, a testament to the strength that lies within every heart that has been broken, yet dares to beat again. I continue to write, to speak, and to advocate for others who have suffered similar betrayals, hoping that my story might offer a glimmer of hope to those who feel lost in the aftermath of deception. Every day, I am reminded that the future is not predetermined by the pain of the past, but is shaped by the choices we make in our darkest hours. I choose to live with authenticity, to honor the promise I made to myself, to never let anyone else dictate my worth or my destiny. In that resolve, I find a sense of freedom that no betrayal can ever take away. Standing at the edge of tomorrow, I reflect on the long, winding path that led me from the depths of despair to this place of renewal and strength. Michael's shocking announcement in the middle of that family dinner, a moment when everyone else seemed to know but me, was the moment when my world was irrevocably altered. And yet, in the aftermath of that betrayal, I discovered that my capacity for love and resilience was far greater than I ever imagined. I now live each day with gratitude for the lessons learned and the strength that has emerged from my suffering. I have built a life that is rich in genuine connections, creative pursuits, and the quiet joy of self-discovery. Every step I take is a testament to the power of the human spirit, a spirit that can rise, even from the darkest of betrayals, to embrace the light of a new dawn. To anyone who finds themselves in the midst of heartbreak, I offer this simple truth: trust your instincts, hold on to your truth, and know that even when the people you love betray you, you have the power to reclaim your life. Every terror, every sleepless night, and every moment of despair can give way to a future filled with hope and renewal. This is my story, a narrative of love lost, trust shattered, and ultimately, a triumph of the human spirit. And as I continue to write each new chapter of my life, I do so with an unyielding belief that my future is mine to define, brighter, stronger, and more beautiful than I ever dared to dream.